Dirk Blocker was 14 when his father died suddenly in 1972. He hid his sentiments for 53 years. Fans are shocked to hear Dan Blocker's son talk at 67. The Brooklyn Nine-Nine actor discusses Bonanza's impact on their family. The admirers followed them everywhere. Lost childhood. The truth about his acting career. His statements reveal Hoss Cartwright's quiet son's surprising side. DeKalb, Texas, welcomed Dan Blocker on December 10, 1928. He arrived loudly. Birth weight, 14 pounds. Big enough to establish a Bowie County record. He had a false name on his birth certificate months later. Instead of Bobby Dan Davis Blocker, the doctor wrote Bobby Don. His mother, Mary, perhaps had the worst birth in town. Shaq, his father, had no notion that this huge baby would become a TV star. Not many forgot that birth. For years, locals said no one had beaten the 14-pound mark until recently. Dan was 6 when the family moved to West Texas's little rural hamlet of O'Donnell. They mourned. Virginia, Dan's older sister, died of pneumonia, aged 11, a year earlier. When Dan was 5, it happened. The loss devastated the family, but life went on. The Shack opened a food store. They resided behind it. By 5th grade, Dan bagged groceries and hauled 40-pound cattle feed sacks for clients after playing behind the warehouse. The town had 3,000 residents, 2 lumber yards, 2 drugstores, and 2 doctors. Dan, the shopkeeper's son, was well known in that world. His size was noteworthy, but his labor earned him respect. Dan grew fast and tall. At 10, he was 5 feet tall and 105 pounds. He was 6 feet and 200 pounds at 12. He was bigger than not only the other kids, but also many mature men. Whenever heavy lifting was needed, he worked with them on grain trucks and elevators. Dan could box with bigger lads on Saturday nights when Main Street was roped off. By 13, he was fighting 20-somethings. He never lost. He allegedly pulled a car off a jack from a man. No one doubted his ability, real or not. By high school, he was 6 feet 4 inches and 275 pounds, and war-sized 14.5 shoes. Dan's dad joked that he was too big to ride and too small to draw a wagon. Useless. His size would make him famous. Dan's parents put him in San Antonio's Texas Military Institute at 12. They undoubtedly hoped the discipline would make him more than a large body. This institution trained General Douglas MacArthur. Dan gained structure, hardness, and focus. All of it would benefit him eventually. Hardin-Simmons University accepted him in 1946 after TMI. He played football there. His size made him natural. Teammates respected the 18-year-old tank-built, speedy player. Football wouldn't change his tail. It happened in Sul Ross State. He transferred there in 1947 and volunteered to help backstage in a school production. The show featured arsenic and old lace, so they needed someone strong to carry fake corpses. Dan agreed, and it clicked. Moving those objects, being around the performers, and seeing it all come together inspired him. He instantly saw another way. Drama replaced physical education as his major. Suddenly, the footballer was an actor. Dan continued playing football at Sul Ross, but theater became his passion. He worked odd jobs. He paid for school by rodeoing and bartending. He found meaning on stage. People were startled by his gentleness and expression despite his stature. His professors noticed. His classmates supported him. He earned a speech and theater degree in 1950. Everyone expected him to play sports. Instead, he chose something harder and riskier. Professional football teams offered. Boxing promoters called. Dan declined, not wanting to make a living with his fists or size. Wanted more. He desired art. In 1950, he came to Boston for summer stock theater. He was 2,000 miles from Texas and knew nobody. But he risked. He performed weekly plays. His pay was low. He was quick to learn lines and portrayed several parts. Though taxing, it was everything he wanted. Dan Blocker imagined he'd become a Boston actor, but reality had other ideas. On November 1950, the U.S. Army called him. Blocker was enlisted into the boiling Korean War at 6 feet 4 inches and over 250 pounds. It was hard to dress a big man. Boots for his 14.5 feet took the Army a month to locate. Blocker went to Japan after Louisiana basic training, then straight to Korea's combat lines in December 1951. His unit was F Company, 2nd Battalion, 179th Infantry Regiment, 45th Division. The soldiers present immediately called him Big Un. Combat was swift. Assigned to Jamestown Line trenches, his troops endured snow, mud, and gunshots. Private Blocker arrived. He didn't stay long. He rose from corporal to sergeant to master sergeant due to his leadership. Everything happened rapidly. Not merely following directions, he led. Blocker fought for 209 days. One of his darkest recollections was Christmas Eve, 1951. Blocker's team was stuck on Hill 255 for 10 hours. It was terrible, dark, and chilling. On May 25, 1952, violence increased. 6 Americans died and 21 were injured defending Hill 200. The unit also killed 132 enemy soldiers. Blocker survived mortar attacks and ambushes. In one vicious combat, he was shot while rescuing his wounded friends. It gave him a Purple Heart and altered him. Too much had been seen. He opposed war, notably the Vietnam War, after returning home. He stated it clearly. He didn't want American bombs on innocent people after what he'd endured. But the fight revealed more about Blocker. He led under pressure. In Porkchop Hills, he planned and led risky patrols. Ancient Baldy. Once, his group walked into an ambush. They were outnumbered and in hostile territory. Blocker remained calm and led the fight back. His massive frame helped him rescue the wounded, but it also made him a target. His resolve never wavered. He had many awards by the time his unit was rotated out. In July 1952, Combat Infantryman Badge, Korean Service Medal with 2 campaign stars, Korean Presidential Unit Citation, etc. On September 24, 1952, he left the Army. He married his wartime love, Dolphia Lee Parker, 2 days later. They were finally together after he wrote her letters from Korea. A small ceremony was held in Carlsbad, New Mexico. Blocker returned to Sul Ross State Teachers College that week. He completed his drama master's degree. The desire of acting persisted, but bills had to be paid. Then he taught high school English and drama in Sonora, Texas. Students recalled his booming voice echoing through the halls, especially while reading Shakespeare. Dan Blocker moved to Carlsbad, New Mexico, after teaching in Sonora for a year. At Eddy Elementary School, he taught 6th grade and coached. Acting remained his passion while teaching. He performed in his classroom and maintained his acting interest. Then, something unexpected happened. Blocker and his family visited Hollywood from Sonora over summer break. Job hunting wasn't the goal. Though on vacation, fate intervened. A talent agent observed Blocker in full cowboy regalia, heeled boots, a showy shirt, and a gigantic straw hat while he was calling from a phone booth. Blocker was 6 feet 4 inches tall and looked like a Western character. Agent needed no script or tryout. One look convinced him Blocker was a TV star. Blocker's wife and children waited in their station wagon, unaware that their lives would change forever. The setup was ideal. Hollywood's late 1950s cowboy programs included Blocker, who looked the part. His Texas heritage, size, and rugged charm fit producers' needs. That sidewalk encounter started something big. Blocker didn't relocate to California to star. He traveled to Los Angeles for a UCLA education PhD in 1956. Academics were important to him. To support his family, he substitute taught in Glendale schools while studying. He had 4 kids. 1953 twin girls, Deborah Lee and Dana Lynn, 1955 David, and 1957 Dirk. Life was hectic. He balanced classes, employment, and fatherhood. Stardom didn't start for Dan Blocker. In 1957, he played the goon in a Three Stooges short film, Outer Space Jitters. The silly sci-fi comedy credited him as Don Blocker, not his true name. He wore an extraterrestrial outfit and was 6 feet 4 and over 300 pounds. The 17-minute film, produced in 2 days, highlighted Blocker's early use of his physique to draw attention, even in a Stooges farce. He played a bartender in The Sheriff of Cochise in 1956. That was his TV debut. He switched roles often. He played cavalry lieutenant in Gunsmoke in 1956. He returned to the show 2 years later in another capacity. By then, he had appeared in Have Gun, Will Travel, and Colt 45. He appeared in several westerns in 1957. He played tough men, outlaws, and enforcers in The Rifleman, Cheyenne, and others. They weren't glamorous, but they got him noticed. Big guy with loud voice was remembered. Maverick followed. His life altered after that show. Hognose Hughes was his role. Blocker later called it his most important early role. Maverick wasn't your typical Western. It was smart and funny, and Blocker fit in wonderfully. He was large and humorous. Casting directors and producers noticed his charisma and strength. The balance of comedy and drama would define Hoss Cartwright. That finding began with Hognose Hughes. He played recurring roles in another Western, Samaran City, in 1958. The one-season sitcom, Tiny, led to a life-changing bond. David Dortort produced Cimarron City. He recognized Blocker from The Restless Gun, when he played a blacksmith and a cattleman. Dortort liked what he saw. When he started designing a Western family ranch show, he knew who he wanted. The Bonanza creators weren't sure who would perform most of the roles when they started in 1959. But one thing was certain. For Dan Blocker, Hoss Cartwright was written. No one else was auditioned by the producers. They know their stuff. They were right. The show began slowly. 45th in ratings. Blocker's performance improved things. The show slowly rose in the ratings. It topped American TV ratings a few years later. Hoss wasn't supposed to be serious at first. He was meant to be the huge, sluggish person, a joke, a powerful puncher who didn't speak. He was described as basic and dim. Dan Blocker was different. By subsequent seasons, he weighed 365 pounds at 6 feet 4 inches. But behind that size was a master's degreed man. He taught English. He wanted a Ph.D. He brought his all to the part. He played Hoss as thoughtful, sympathetic, and heartfelt, not foolish, and writers noted. Changed Hoss to match Blocker. He evolved from humorous relief to show soul. People loved Hoss by the 3rd season, when Bonanza ranked 2nd. He was more than muscle. He had the moral compass and reminded viewers what the Cartwrights were fighting for. Behind the scenes, the show was terrible. Bonanza produced around 30 episodes annually, unlike modern TV shows that shoot 10 or 12. That meant 14-hour days, practically non-stop, 5 days a week. Dan Blocker arrived at 7 a.m. and left at 9 p.m. The heat, clothes, writing, and stunts were overwhelming. He persevered despite passing out from heat, especially for a man of stature. He allegedly said he sees his TV family more than his wife and 4 kids. By 1972, he had filmed 415 episodes. A schedule like that would break most actors nowadays. Blocker's sacrifice makes his narrative equally sadder. He had huge plans before Bonanza. to succeed in education, not celebrity. He taught after receiving his Texas Masters. Sixth graders studied English and acting with him. He relocated to California for reasons other than Hollywood. For UCLA, he sought a Ph.D. That was his dream. Acting was accidental. Someone saw him in a cowboy attire and recruited him. Despite being cast in Bonanza, he kept studying. He said he could balance filming and classes in early interviews, but it proved impossible. Memorizing scripts, shooting all day, and interviewing occupied everything. He placed his studies on hold in 1961 and never returned. He eventually regretted not getting his Ph.D. Still, his contributions to television are unavoidable. Hoss was more than a kind cowboy. His character evoked emotion. By the mid-60s, surveys revealed viewers identified Hoss as Bonanza's emotional center. Blocker stated he played Hoss with the words, "Let us do it now, for we will never pass this way again." And he meant it, on and off screen. One show dominated American television in the 1960s. Not everyone liked Bonanza. It was national tradition. From 1964 to 1967, it was the top show nationwide. Nearly 19 million households watched every Sunday at 9 p.m., a 36.3 rating share. It rose from 45th to 2nd to 1st in a few seasons. Bonanza was top 5 for 9 years. No other show did that. America wasn't alone. Cartwrights aired in approximately 50 countries, including Canada, Brazil, France, Thailand, and Saudi Arabia. CBS finally discovered a competitor in 1967, a Smothers Brothers comedy show. Even Judy Garland's show failed before that. Blocker played more than a rancher. Somehow, he became one. He opened a steakhouse in 1963 during Bonanza's peak. This was the Bonanza Sirloin Pit. The first was in Westport, Connecticut, inside a 1925 Greyhound bus stop. The plan worked. Names were known. It was trusted. In 1966, brothers Sam and Charles Wiley bought the business and grew it quickly. 3 more guys began a similar company in Indiana in 1965. They called it Ponderosa Steakhouse. Both brands grew until 1989. Metro Media bought them. Around then, Bonanza had 600 restaurants. The 2 chains combined in 1997 but kept their names. About 75 locations remained in 2019. Blocker had made TV fame a genuine business that people could walk into, sit down, and taste. His film career continued. He appeared with Frank Sinatra in Come Blow Your Horn in 1963. Neil Simon's comedy worked. It grossed $12.7 million and was a hit that year. Blocker and Sinatra reunited for Lady in Cement in 1968, a crime thriller this time. Blocker played risky businessman Rudy Kosterman. The film has a gritty, jazzy 1960s Miami feel. Off-screen, something was hidden. Before becoming renowned, Chuck Norris taught all 4 of Dan Blocker's kids karate during Bonanza's prime years. They trained with Michael Landon's kids. The cast became family. Blocker married Parker in 1952. They were together from college until his 1972 death. Their son David earned an Emmy in 1998 as a producer.